Welcome to this week's edition of Different Thinking for Different Times. I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm your host. From time to time, we will be doing interviews of interesting people and authors around the world, and maybe some people who don't think they're interesting, but that I find them interesting. And it includes some of the experiences they've had that have influenced their thinking and what makes up different thinking for different times. So I'd like to start with a commercial for Anchor FM. Everything that you need to do a podcast is here. And automatically, if you get set up on Anchor FM, I can tell you that you will be set up on all the different sites that are broadcasting podcasts. And so Spotify and Apple and Google, et cetera, I have 5 places that you can catch my podcast. Let me give you the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing a different thinking for different times? Why am I investing my own time to do this? And I'm doing it as a pouring into people, as adding value to people, and really to get people one by one to think differently and to understand why, and also to meet other people who think differently, that think a lot like I do. The other reason why is that I had a near-death experience on November 18th in the afternoon around 2 in 2002 when I was 50 years old. And I can tell you that while I did have different thinking even as a child, that day changed my life forever because it confirmed what I had always thought in my heart as a child. And it confirmed why I felt good every time I did good. It's interesting. If you think about that yourself now, when you do good, how does it make you feel? So on that day, November 18th, 2002, 1 second I was in my body, 2 friends at the end of my bed in intensive care. I had been in 5 days at that point, and little did I know it would be 100 days. 60 days straight and 40 out of the next 60 days in and out of hospitals, and really 3 years for a total full recovery. So I can tell you that 1 second again in the hospital bed with 2 friends, and the next second, pure consciousness. It's the only way I can describe it. I didn't have a body, but I wasn't startled to discover that like you'd be startled in a human body, because nothing from here on earth was there. So there were no opposites, no male, no female. There were no judgments, no religions, no anything that we've been taught here. And I call everything we've learned here small-minded thinking. The acorn brain, I call it. And if you think about that for a second, even anything you've ever read that said where we go, that what we experience next has judgment and vengeance, and if it sounds small-minded, it's human. It's not where the infinite resides, right? For me, I call it God, and it did not have a name. Like Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching, you cannot name that which has no name. But I immediately knew that I was one with everything and nothing. Then there was a life review, and only the good I had done was mentioned. It flashed before me. At the end of the life review, I was asked a question, stay or go, just like that. And I remember surrendering like no other time previously. To the moment, I said, thy will be done. And I was right back in the hospital room. And I can tell you that there's a few things I learned. One is I couldn't connect the events together until I got back in my body. So there was no past or no future. There was only the now. So where the divine was, where I was where the divine is. And it's in the now. It's fascinating, right? We all walk around wanting things to be better, meeting people who bug us, working jobs we don't like. But guess what? That's where God is. That's where the divine is. That's where the universe is, the goddess. It doesn't matter what you call it, the Buddha, the Christ, all of those ways to describe the power that flung the stars into space. That's what I call it, right? We're one with what flung the stars into space. And it doesn't think anything like we think, right? Consciousness doesn't think like we think. We have to think the way we do so that we can learn and grow. So different thinking is to get over ourselves, basically, and to understand that everything is divine. Because if the divine, the life force, the goddess, the God, whatever you call it, the universe, took its attention off of this existence, we would be gone. After all, we're suspended on what's probably a marble in size in relation to infinity, right? We call it infinity. In relation to the total size of the universe, we're probably on a marble. And some have said a grain of sand when I say that. They say, Steve, no, it's even smaller. A grain of sand. So we're on a marble. I like to say that. It's a little more believable to me, to my acorn brain. We're on a marble floating around an exposed nuclear fusion plant. Just take that in a second, right? You can call it a burning star. We call it a sun to make it comfortable in our acorn brains. We call it a universe to give it definition and dimension. We call it a sun to make it comfortable, but its actual definition is an exposed nuclear fusion plant. And we are at the exact right spot for life to occur. So we live in a miracle. And the thing is to begin to have miracle thinking. And miracle thinking is limitless, right? And that means we get all bogged down and angry because people have a different political view. You don't have to look far today to see small-minded acorn brain thinking. And we get so lodged in it, and there's nothing, no life force, no God is even entertaining all of this turmoil that we put ourselves through, right? We create our environment and we create our worlds, and we put ourselves through this ongoing torment with people that bug us. It might not be politics for you. It might be different religions. It might be a boss. It might be that you have to work for a living. You're bothered by it. You're bothered by a job. But the thing is, it's all small-minded thinking. So here I am back in my hospital room, and I'm amazed as I can finally string the events together. So I didn't have a body. The next event was a life review. Then I was asked stay or go, and I said, thy will be done. I had never really surrendered to the moment like that. And when I did, it was amazing what happened. It was the beginning of an amazing journey, right? So this year, it'll be 17 years. It's like a new birthday for me. Every day is the World Series. So it was the beginning of something new, and it was the beginning of taking my urgings as a small child to have limitless thinking and to have different thinking and to really expand on it and to do good, because the only thing mentioned in my life review was good. And it makes sense to me that here we are living in a cause and effect world, and here we pay for the mistakes we make. For the negative we put out in the world, we pay. So we're paying here as we go. You do something that's negative and you get, life gives you feedback. And it could be that you get arrested and thrown in jail or die in jail, or maybe a tormented life, commit suicide. I have a brother who committed suicide. I also was abused by a family member sexually as a very small child, 10 years old. It was oral sex, and as a boy, it was very confusing. But I can tell you, I look back on all of these things, and it expanded my capacity to love and to forgive and to look at what it taught for me. It certainly broke a pattern of child abuse in the family, as I learned later that 3 of my brothers and 1 sister had been abused by an outside member of the family. He was called an uncle, and he wasn't really an uncle. And while we can all live in those events that happen. It's best to just keep moving in our lives and to look at what is the lesson. And small-minded thinking is to want others to die and burn in hell after that besides, right? To pay for their mistakes here and then burn in hell forever. Or vengeance is mine, says the Lord. But all of those writings were done by people, and they were influenced by the happenings of the day. And they too were not exempt from small-minded thinking, from acorn brain thinking. I'm not saying religious people have an acorn brain, but anyone who's not tolerant of someone else, it's small-minded thinking. It does not come from your God or any God or what created the universe, what flung the stars into space is way beyond our acorn brain, way beyond. And so I challenge everyone to begin relearning everything they've been taught, is to take forgiveness to times 10, to take giving times 10, to take loving times 10. And it's not a mamby-pamby, let's sing kumbaya around the campfire type of love. It's acknowledging those around you. It's assisting those around you, helping other people win. It's doing good, even if it's a silent donation without recognition. And it could be that you're doing good and you get some recognition. It's all good. The recognition, of course, is part of the small-minded brain. It's part of that limited thinking. So we don't have far to look to know. All of us know we need different thinking for different times, but it's not about politics. Certainly what it means is it's about acceptance and generosity and letting people have space for their views. Who cares what they think? We can compromise, though. We can negotiate, and it's to begin to stop the extreme left and the extreme right thinking. Because anything that's extreme, again, is small-minded thinking. Now, you could say, well, Steve, you're making the extreme left and the extreme right wrong. But if they have violence in their heart, if they have, you're going to do it my way or the highway in their heart, just think about how small-minded that is. And you know deep down what I'm saying is true. And if not, well, then shut off the podcast because it's not meant for you. And certainly if you're reacting, that's your small-minded acorn brain reacting. And it's okay, right? There's no way to advance. There's no way to go from small-minded into larger-minded thinking, expansive thinking, limitless thinking, without recognizing that we come from that turmoil and that chaos of small-minded thinking. And its purpose is to wake us up to the idea of that unlimited potential in growth, expanded thinking, limitless thinking. Make friends with someone who does not agree with your politics and let them have that space without reacting. Make friends with someone of much different religion and let them have that space. And of course, if they won't make space for you, then, well, let them go, forgive them, bless them on their way. They're not ready for the journey of acceptance. So there's so many things that we have to talk about in this podcast, and part of it will be based on my book, Wake Up, Jump Into Your Life. It's been a workbook for, I think, 15 years or more, maybe 20 years, 1999 or 2000. So say 19 years. It's been a workbook, and I've taught from it, and I'm currently turning it into a book and looking for a publisher. I've actually been contacted by one or two and making decisions about the best one for me. And I'll know from expansive thinking, if that's how they show up to me, then I'll know that's the one for me. So you're living in a cause and effect world. The divine is in the now. And limitless thinking is to embrace everything that shows up in your life, even if it's not your plan. Eckhart Tolle says often that some people think reality is nuts. I chuckle when I hear that, and I hear him say that especially. And what that means is it's here now. Accept it. Instead of fighting life, Eckhart also says when you fight life, life fights you. He says instead of being upset that it's not working out your way, that it's not following your plan, you could simply say, oh, this must be the plan. And so take some time to think about how could you begin thinking differently for different times. I can give you a clue of how you can do it. Wherever you're upset, wherever you're angry, wherever you're frustrated, the gifts in those, all of those episodes are for you to begin looking at how you can break into limitless thinking. Perhaps you're not accepting of people who are in same-sex relationships or marriages. Then you would begin looking at that, because that's small-minded thinking. If you're not comfortable around people who are the same sex and made different choices than you, you're stuck in small-minded thinking. On the other hand, if you're in a relationship, a same-sex relationship, and you're not tolerant of people from the opposite sex or people that are heterosexual, then again, that's actually the urging of you to look into that and expand your thinking and become more comfortable. If you're a woman who doesn't like men, well, there's your invitation. And men who are abusive and angry at women, there's your invitation to begin expanding your thinking, different thinking for different times. If we're not going to challenge all those acorn brain thoughts, that small-minded, judgmental thinking, then we're stuck, right? You're stuck. Your life will not change, and you'll wonder why you keep getting upset and you keep meeting the people that will upset you, because what you resist in the universe persists. Because, again, as much as you think by looking around in a physical world that you live on an Earth, you're really on a spaceship hurtling through space. As Walter Cronkite says in the Disney ride, right? We're hurtling through space. We're living in a miracle, folks. It's urging us to advance into different thinking for different times. And when we change, things change. And again, you have to prove that to yourself. Don't take my word for it. Experiment. Make your life an experiment. Begin to do good. Begin to let go of judgments. Every time you have a frustrating moment, accept it. Bless it. Greet it with enthusiasm. Oh, it's here to help me grow. Maybe people that bug you, you could think of it as God in disguise, the divine in disguise, the universe in disguise, the life force in disguise. Whatever you call it, here to teach me. Or asking you to serve, maybe to help them buy a sandwich or serve them a meal or help them get cleaned up or help them find housing. Those acts of expanded, limitless thinking would have you saying, thank you, God, thank you, universe, thank you, divine, thank you, the goddess, for allowing me to serve you. You could look at it for different thinking in different times as the opportunity to serve. And remember, we live a flash in time, right? It's a flash in time. Your life will be over in 80 to 120 years. And even if it's 150, it goes like that. And you know it. I'll be 67 in October. And I can tell you, I have never enjoyed life more than I have in the last 17 years. This new life that I've been given, this second chance at life. And part of the reason I was given this second chance is to challenge people to break free from small-minded thinking. Even as a young boy, I would remember people recording their limits to others, reporting on them and telling the story over and over. Oh, I could never do that, or I'll never get out of here, or all of those complaints. I would say, no, that's not true. You can, if you want to, begin to test it. I was encouraging people to win at a very small age, and I knew there was limited thinking in a lot of people. And I was going to be a priest until I met a woman, a young lady, who I'm so grateful that the minute I met her, I knew there was no way I could be without women, so I couldn't be a Catholic priest. And it made me question the path I was on, and I had questions about the Catholic faith, which put me on a path of investigating New Age thinking, investigating a lot of other religions, and it had me deciding none of them are right. There is no one path. They're all right. And any place that each of them have small-minded thinking, that's the place that the human thinking takes over. It's not the limitless. It's not what made us. So I'm challenging you, all of you that listen to different thinking for different times each week, challenging you to push through your limited thinking. Begin to break your biases. Begin to look at not left nor right, but what's good for those around you, including compromise. It doesn't mean because you feel one way and someone else feels another that they're wrong and you're right. Every time you want to be right, it means you're making a whole bunch of other people wrong. Maybe it's time for a conversation. And that limitless thinking would be find a way to break through and find a way to compromise and both get what you want in a way, in a new way. And so different thinking for different times. We'll continue this message every week, and I'll take small variations of it. We'll look at forgiveness and look at all the possibilities for expanding forgiveness, especially in situations where people think it's impossible. Again, if it sounds small-minded, it is. It's not where the limitless is. In fact, the limitless has no idea of these conversations that we have. No idea. Evil does not exist in the face of light. The infinite, the life force, what flung the stars into space, is not interested in our sins. The life force is interested in how we expand, how we learn and grow and continue to do good. Remember how it makes you feel. This week, perhaps, look at everyone as that life force, God, the divine, the goddess, whatever you call it, the Buddha, the Christ, it doesn't matter. Look at everything as a gift. Some, the uncomfortable, are pushing you to learn and grow, pushing you to go in a different direction. The things you love and the things you have joy in are here also because it's a reflection of some part of you. So enjoy the joyous moments and find a way to look at what is the gift in those moments that ordinarily in small-minded thinking you would rail against. So breathe, relax, ponder what I'm saying. Don't dismiss it. And you can if you like. Again, that's the grace of small-minded thinking. Until we can get over ourselves, we'll continue to have small-minded thinking, and its purpose is to finally wake us up so that we grow. So wake up, jump into your life, make your life like a lucid dream. For people that have had nightmares all their lives or a good portion of their lives, or perhaps when they were a child like me, I had violent nightmares and I didn't even know what I was running from. And oftentimes people would find me in other parts of the house and a few times even outside. And what I was running from, what I learned later on, was fear. You can't see it. And then one day, I was maybe 13 or 14, someone was talking on a talk show about lucid dreaming, how to break nightmares. And it gave me the idea about waking up in our life, that it takes a force of will to wake oneself up in a nightmare. And it takes a force of will to wake oneself up in life. Small-minded thinking has us drinking and partying and sex and drugs and rock and roll and video games and phones, using anything we can to escape. And it's taking us away from what's here right now, which is the divine. And even if it's uncomfortable, if you embrace it, it too will pass as you ponder its lesson. What is the gift in this moment? And resist the urge to run away from it and go have a smoke, a cigar, a night of drinking, or a night of drugs, or a night of sex, or a night of gambling, or whatever it is you use to run away. That's small-minded thinking. So expand into the limitless. Start to look at, can you jump into your life in a more vibrant way, right? The way you would jump into a nightmare, it's called lucid dreaming. You can actually jump into a nightmare or any of your dreams and begin to experience the dream itself. You can even ask the characters, which according to dream experts are really all of us. It's all of us, right? So all the different characters are really me in my dreams and in my nightmares. And I can ask the characters, what are they there to teach me? Or I can take the dream over and have fun. I can have fun flying instead of the fear of going off a cliff in a car. I can have fun just flying in my body. I don't need a plane. Whatever the dream is, I can jump into it. And it's that message is the same for our life. Where we're frustrated, where we're angry, where we're upset, we can jump into our life and change it. And it means getting uncomfortable. It might mean embracing things that you had not yet embraced, but it's mostly expanded thinking, right? To get out of that small-minded thinking that keeps you angry and frustrated and wanting to change people you can't change and change politics that you can't change relationships you can't change people's preferences which you can't change. Expand into the limitless and look at the gift that life is giving you with these challenges. Different thinking for different times. Ponder it. See what you can do this week. Begin to experiment with how you can be very different. So bring different thinking to different times. And it's amazing what you'll discover. And feel free to email me, Steve at stevelentini.com. I'll be glad to take your questions. I'll be glad to interview you if you begin to experiment with your life and to begin to notice where you were really stuck and how different thinking has opened up your life. I'll be glad to make you a guest on the show, on the podcast. So each week I'll be here challenging your thinking and sharing with you stories that have helped me along the way. Any questions? Again, Steve at Steve Lentini, Lent as in Tom, INI.com. Steve at stevelentini.com. Have a great week. Thank you for listening.